everybody, welcome to the Guys Learning Japanese podcast. How's it going, Nick?
It's going good. How are you?
Awesome. I'm happy it's finally spring and it's getting warmer.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so let's get to today's topic. Today, for our series finale, episode 20 of the Guys Learning Japanese podcast, we're going to do an episode that's kind of similar to our episode number 10. We're going to do like a status update, and we're also going to talk about our goals for Japanese in the future, where we would like to be, ideally, linguistically. And also we'll talk about our future plans and what projects we have planned in the future. Okay, so, would you like to get started at the first part, where we're at now? What have you been doing lately to study?
Well, as per usual, I've been reading books. I'm still reading kids' books. I'm reading How to Train Your Dragon, the translation of How to Train Your Dragon, the first book. I think there's a whole series, I don't know, but it seems like there is. But I'm reading the first book of that, which is, I'd actually bought previously, wasn't able to read it, and have returned to it recently, and it's been absolutely fine. So it's, it shows you that, I'm obviously advancing, which is, just a great reminder. And it's
awesome.
And it's a really good book. It's filled with lots of character and filled with lots of. The translator is clearly really skilled, because it's I'm not sure if the original language is English actually, but it's just a really it's got lots of life, and it's got lots of great expressions, and you can really get a sense of the characters and everything, which is, testament not only to the original writer but also to the translator. How about you? What have you been up to?
I haven't been studying that much recently, actually. I think usually most of the time I'm doing like Anki reps, like for about 10 to 20 minutes a day. But recently, maybe for the last 2 months or so, I haven't been doing that at all. I've mainly been reading newspaper articles and just different articles online, and then occasionally saving good words or good vocabulary to my Anki deck. I use the Firefox add-on, or extension, I think it's called. Rikai-chan. I've been using that a lot, just saving random words into a list, and then usually at the end of the week I'll add maybe 20 or 30 words to my Anki deck. I haven't studied any of those words yet, but I add them to my Anki deck. Other than that, the main reason that my studying hasn't been going so well recently is because along with one of our coworkers and some other people around me, they've all been playing Call of Duty Ghost on PS3, and they've kind of pressured me to get that, and I got it, and I've become slightly addicted to it. I play it for, an hour or two a day. Maybe not 2 hours, but a little over an hour a day.
Yeah, listeners should know that whenever he is at work and talking to this teacher, he's talking about this game.
Yeah, I know, it's all we talk about. But I have learned some vocabulary through this game. Like, I'm learning a lot of mission parameter lingo and military lingo, and weapons descriptions, or different attachments, or just kind of weapons and military lingo. Learning a lot of that stuff. I don't know how useful that is for me, but it's kind of interesting because, I'm a big Metal Gear fan and, military game fan. So it's, I don't feel like it's studying at all. I enjoy learning these new words, as I would in English.
Yeah, well, I think that's the best part, is that you're having fun in the language, and so you can... that's just a cool thing. I think a lot of people, they just wish that they were having more fun maybe they're in a beginner stage and everything feels like a grind. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Mm.
I guess you should throw away your. I guess people should throw away their JLPT textbooks and just get Call of Duty.
Well, speaking of JLPT, you're still doing that, aren't you?
Yeah, actually, I'm planning to take the level 1 in I think it's June or July this year. But the application deadline is, yeah, I know. I'm not really into it. I we should have really talked about the JLPT more, but I don't really think it's a good test because as much as I read, as much as I study, there's just so much material on the test that is not really useful, I think. And there's so many expressions that I come across every day that I don't understand, but that's not on the test. So there's things on the test that I think shouldn't be, and there's things that should be on the test that aren't. I think that's unfortunate.
And this isn't your personal opinion either. I mean, a lot of it you've actually gone to teachers and Japanese teachers and asked them, is this something that you've ever seen? And they often talk about how rare some of these grammar are and everything, right?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like a lot of the stuff that I learn or study for this test, I can never use it. Like just because it's uncommon or people don't say it or people don't understand it. So I kind of feel like studying for the JLPT is kind of bad for my Japanese, ironically. But the application deadline is at the end of April, so I think it starts on April 1st, and then the deadline is at the end of April. So I have to apply within April, and then the test is I think at the beginning of June or maybe in July.
Right, right. And you
So
mentioned
I'm going to take
before.
the N1.
Right, right, right. You mentioned before too that you're using Rikai-chan for your as an add-on. Have you ever actually discovered any other add-ons for Firefox that you found useful, like for studying Japanese?
No, I haven't. Actually, I haven't really checked that much, honestly. So no. Why have you found something?
Well, yeah, it's not directly related to studying Japanese, but I find that in I don't do the thing that you do. I don't save things to Rikai-chan. I just copy them directly into Anki. So I basically have Anki taking up half of my screen, and then I have Firefox taking up the other half. And so as I'm browsing through an article, for example, I can just select it, and I found an add-on that it auto copies. And so all you need to do is select something and it auto copies. And then you can just, move your cursor over to the other side of the screen and just automatically paste it into Anki that way. And it's just a tiny little thing, but it's actually can save you quite a lot of time. You don't have to control C all the time, or you don't have to right click copy all the time. Yeah, it just saves you just that tiny little bit of extra time.
So by highlighting the word, it
Yeah,
copies
yeah,
it?
that's right. It automatically copies it to the clipboard.
What's it called?
It's called Autocopy 2. Autocopy 2. Yeah, yeah. It's really really good. I don't
I'll
know
check that
about
out.
yeah, I don't know about Chrome or anything, but definitely you can use it within Firefox. Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of add-ons, actually, I've discovered I went online and onto the Anki add-ons, and there's some really really good add-ons for that too. For example, there's an add-on that when you're studying the cards, if you've ever, I think about the only thing that you can do while you're studying is highlight them, and typically all you can do is just copy them. You can right click on them and go down to copy, and then you can copy it into your browser or copy it into whatever. But it's a very similar to the add-on I was just mentioning. That what you can do is you can highlight text within Anki. This is within the desktop version. I'm not sure about using it in other ways, like within the web version or whatever. So you can highlight it, and then you can right click on it, and then a second option comes up, which is you can search for it, and you can search for it in some whatever website you choose. and so I chose to search for it in jisho.org, which is my favorite online dictionary. So yeah, I chose to search for it in there. So essentially, what I do is just highlight the text in Anki, right click, and move my cursor down to look up in jisho.org. Click on that and it automatically opens up, Firefox automatically goes to the Jisho page, automatically inputs the text into the search in Jisho, and then, sort of pushes enter for me, and then, shows me the result.
Wow.
Yeah, so just, once again, it's almost instantaneous because Jisho is a really fast website, and so it's just a really, really good way. I mean, I know a lot of people, they probably add add-ons to Anki which have built-in dictionaries and all that sort of stuff. But if you're not interested in that, like I wasn't, this is a way around that.
I see.
Yeah. So that's another cool thing I've discovered in the last month or so. Yeah.
That's
Do you
pretty
have
cool.
Yeah. Do you have anything else that you've been doing recently?
Yeah, another thing I recently did was I was looking for the Japanese lyrics to a song, Call Me Maybe, by Carly Rae Jepsen. Yeah, funny, huh? Not for me, obviously, but I was using this as a teaching material in class, and then I was really, really disappointed with the translation, and I looked online for all kinds of different translations, and I just couldn't find anything that was worth using. And there were some very, very drastic differences between the original English and the Japanese translation. Like, I think they really didn't understand what she was singing about in the song. So I don't like doing English to Japanese translation, but I decided to do this pro bono. So I translated it from English to Japanese, and then I released it online. And I'm not sure if it's getting millions of hits, because I'm not even sure if it's a popular song anymore, but hopefully people who are looking for the lyrics to the song and people who want to really understand the content of the song, hopefully they can find it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, and I know that you put a lot of work into it. It took you a good few days, didn't you? You were like really sort of focused on it.
Yeah, well, it didn't take a few days, but it took a couple hours, but I spread it out over 2 days.
Right.
I wasn't that passionate about it. I didn't lose any sleep over it,
All
don't
right.
worry. But it's just like because I'm not completely confident in my Japanese, so I wanted to translate the actual feeling. Like I explained the feeling that the girl was talking about. And then I asked them in Japanese, like, when you read this sentence in Japanese, what do you feel? Do you feel like this, or do you interpret it this way? And if there were any kind of difference, I usually changed it because I tried to get the actual feeling localized so Japanese people could understand it without losing too much of the content.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah. Do you have anything else that you've been doing recently?
I started watching this show with my wife. It's a Korean show, so the audio is in Korean, the spoken language is Korean, but the subtitles are in Japanese. I've been watching that with her a lot recently. It's a show called I Do, I Do. It's a love story. It's about like a fashion designer or a shoe designer, shoemaker, whatever.
Yeah.
But but just I had a little bit of trouble with the subtitles when I first started watching it because there's a lot of dialogue and it goes through pretty quickly. But after a few weeks or so of watching it, I kind of caught up to the speed of it. So I think my reading speed has increased a little. But yeah, it's really interesting to learn about another culture in a foreign language, in a language that's not your mother tongue.
Right. Yeah.
Like so, learning about Korean culture in Japanese is kind of interesting.
Yeah. I always get a little kick out of it. For example, if I look up if I look up a word in the dictionary, and then it's essentially describing, something that's sort of Western. It's always really interesting to hear the way that it's described
Yeah.
in the dictionary. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The
How about you? Have you been watching anything new recently?
started watching this drama. I think it came out last year called Kazoku Game. Kazoku Game, and it was. I got about 5 or 6 episodes into that. It's really really good for my Japanese. It's got lots of good vocabulary. It's about a I actually haven't seen the ending of it yet, so I don't know exactly what's going on. But it's about a guy who is he's a homeschool teacher. He comes to people's homes and he teaches them from home, and he's kind of a psychopath, and he seems to have these extreme measures to get people to learn. And he has these sort of very strict regimes and everything, and he seems to not only be interested in teaching the kid like the content in school, but he also seems to be interested in sort of correcting the kid's whole life. So any of the kid's fears or any of the kid's concerns, he tries to I don't know, to sort of fix them. But he has extreme, sometimes violent ways of doing that. It was a pretty interesting show from what I've seen so far, but it's just sort of, I'll get back to it eventually. I haven't watched it in a couple of weeks, but yeah, I'll get around to it.
Yeah, if it's a typical Japanese show, it's probably only about 10 to 12 episodes. Usually Japanese series are pretty short.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So what are we done for that section? What's the next section?
Goals for our Japanese future. Where would we like to be?
Well, I've been doing a lot of talking, so I think you should go first.
Okay, so in the immediate future, I would like to increase my study time for the JLPT N1. Uh, I'd like to pass this just to have it as a credential on a resume. Um, it's probably the most well-known Japanese test for foreigners, and I think even Japanese people know of this test. Like most people who would be hiring foreigners, they know of this test. I think it's not essential. Like I think if you can go into an interview or any job market and just talk like a normal person, they're not going to ask you about your Japanese skills. Like I think if you can talk your way through it, that's enough. But for some situations where if you don't get an interview, but they're just looking at the resumes, it may be good to have that as a credential on your resume. Because if they see a foreign name, they might think, oh, well, this is a foreigner. This guy probably doesn't speak any Japanese. Oh, he has the top level of the JLPT, so he should be okay. Even though, unfortunately, there are people who have the N1 that, uh, their Japanese skills are not that great. I've met quite a few people that their ability has surprised me. I wonder, like, how did you really pass this? But
Yeah.
that's another story.
Yeah, yeah. I just think it's part of the Japanese culture, unfortunately, that they do seem to put a lot of stock in tests, and they do put a lot of stock in in measurable ability. And so yeah, it's just an unfortunate thing. I know in Australia you could probably just get in off your interview, but regardless of your qualifications. But I think maybe in Japan those qualifications like the JLPT are unfortunately necessary.
Yeah, just for a lot of jobs too, just having that credential on your resume is like a pay increase.
Oh, is it really?
You get a raise. Yeah, you get a raise just for having it. And well, it depends on your position in the company, obviously, but It doesn't matter if your ability is through the roof, but if you actually have it on paper.
Do you know if the same thing applies for in the reverse, where Japanese people who have an English qualification can get paid more?
Yeah, yeah, it's actually really common. I had one friend, I'm not going to mention the company that he works for, but he got, I think it was a 1 million yen passing bonus for getting over 900 on TOEIC.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Mm.
so that's enough incentive to take the test. That's just a one-time bonus, but there are companies that if you have like over 600 or if you maintain over 600 TOEIC points a year, like you take the test every year or so, if you maintain over that certain amount, you get like a certain bonus. Like you get extra money every year just because you have that ability. Yeah, so if they use that ability or not, I'm not really sure. But just having those credentials uh, gives you some kind of incentive, financial incentive.
Is that the only goal that you have for the future, is to pass the JLPT? Do you have any sort of bigger projects in mind after that?
Well, this year I'd like to reduce some of my part-time work, some of my side work that I'm doing now, and I'd like to work in translation more. Uh, Ideally, I would like to start translating some newspaper articles for a few different websites. And I was also thinking about translating some books. I haven't decided which books yet, but maybe something like a page a day or even a page a week, anything really. I'd like to start one of those projects, just translating it little by little, and then at the end, release my translation to the company. Just tell them, if they're interested in paying me for it, I'll gladly take the money. If not, well, they can have my translation for free. Just credit me for it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it'd be a really, really great way, to not only show, all that sort of kindness and good faith, but you're also you'll learn so much from the start of the translation, where it was probably taking you hours to do a single page, through to the end of the translation, where you're probably much, much, much better at it, like through the process of of just translating it. I'm sure you'll learn so much.
Yeah, that's the goal, just to try and grow, to just develop my translation abilities. I've set goals for myself with translating newspaper articles. Newspaper articles are a lot shorter, so it's easier to measure them. So I could give myself 30 minutes per article, and then I try to do it within that time frame, and that kind of it's doable.
Oh, that's a good goal. I have a similar goal, but I'm just not quite there yet. So I want to get to that point where I'm doing just what you just said. Then I would ideally like to be translating novels. Yeah, yeah, but for the time being, I'm just going to keep on essentially doing what I'm doing now, which is, that's enough. I do a lot of studying, doing a lot of reading, doing a lot of, watching a lot of TV and all that sort of stuff. And then essentially, when my ability gets, closer to yours, when it gets to, a better level, I'll probably start. I could probably start working on a certain kind of translation now, but I just don't want to. I just don't think I'm ready to yet.
I think the sooner the better. Like if you want to start now, I think it'll benefit you. Just you'll learn as you're doing it.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. And it's not like I have anything to prove to anybody. I'm probably might not even show it to people. Yeah.
Yeah, the main thing for me to do now, though, is to reduce my workload and to reduce the amount of Call of Duty I play, and just put more of that time into translation.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
but I think you should definitely start as soon as possible.
yeah, well, I'll take that advice on board. I'll have a good think about it. Yeah, yeah. It's I'm in the spring holiday now, so I've got a lot of time to yeah, to sit back and maybe try some stuff. Yeah, yeah. But as for me personally, I I'm actually, I as you know, but the listener likely doesn't. I have many other projects going on. One of which is that I'm writing a book at the moment in English, a science fiction book, and I would love to obviously continue writing that and get that to a to publishing standard and hopefully get that published. And then after that, I would love to. I mean, that might be another 2 or 3 years away. And then after that point, being good enough at Japanese to work with another Japanese person, a native Japanese person, to actually translate it into Japanese. I think I'd get a real kick out of that. That'd be really fascinating to see how my own story could be translated. In much the same way that someone like Murakami Haruki has like a real, he sort of has a lot of input into the way that his novels are translated into English, which I just think is really interesting and great, and probably part of the reason why his translations, or why the books in English are so good.
Yeah, I don't understand why all authors don't do that. It just seems like that's the best way to go.
Well, they just don't have. They just obviously he can't really give much insight into the French translation because he doesn't really know any French, or likely I don't know if he does or doesn't. But yeah, for my case, I don't really know German, for example. So yeah, I can't. If a novel of mine were to ever be translated into German, I couldn't really help out at all. But yeah, it's kind of cool that I could have some input into the Japanese translation. I just think that'd be really cool. Yeah, so that's definitely sort of a dream of mine. It might not be for another few years, but I think in another few years that's given me just enough time to probably get to a point where I could likely I could likely kind of give good feedback, and probably some good advice as to how to translate it.
All
So do
right,
you,
so
yeah.
plans for the future, is that the next part?
Yeah, to
Or
tell you
did we
the,
already cover that,
I
kind of?
think we've already covered it. Yeah, I don't think we need to say any more about it unless you have something very particular to mention.
Well, I mentioned just a short-term goal. I didn't mention any long-term goals, but that's okay.
Did you want to say our goodbyes or some such?
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah, sure. So go ahead.
Okay, so that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to say in this episode and also in the series. Would you like to say goodbye?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been a really good podcast. I've really enjoyed making it. I think we decided maybe at about episode 12 or so that it's probably we're not going to get all that many more episodes because we were running out of things to talk about, and we were already starting to repeat ourselves, and we didn't really know where to go next. And I think it's a compact, nice little package. I think if we'd kept on going, we would have run into all sorts of problems with repetition, and we would have just it would have just gotten a bit stale. But I think we ended it like you were saying with Japanese shows ending at about 10 episodes. I think we ended it at a point which seemed natural to end it.
Yeah, I remember even before episode 12, like kind of somewhat near like episode 1 or 2, I was just thinking like how many episodes could we do? And there's only so many things we could say. I was thinking, maybe around 20 or so episodes, and so it feels very fitting to end it at a clean point at episode 20. So I was happy to do this podcast, just thinking about the topics and trying to imagine what it's like to be a beginner again, or trying to collect my thoughts, gather my thoughts, and put it into advice for people who are learning Japanese. So I really hope it was useful.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite episode?
I don't know, maybe the one with the Street Fighter story.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
Yeah, what was that? Origins?
Yeah, yeah. If any listeners haven't heard that episode, we both highly recommend it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, not very useful for your Japanese ability, but it's just I thought it was an entertaining show. I was interested in hearing about how you got into Japanese too, so that was another good one.
All right, so do you want to wrap it up there?
Yeah, all right. So I'll plug my email into the show description. So if you want to contact us in the future, just contact us through that email. So that's it. Thanks for listening.